Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining our session on getting ahead with AI, enhancing your localization program and your career. We're joined by three industry leaders today who are going to give us some insights on getting a level up in AI in the localization space. So I'll hand it over.
Hey everyone, I'm Olex. I work at GitLab. My title is Manager for Localization Technology, and I run a team of engineers who do just that, who manage and connect various systems to other systems to ensure that translation pipelines are live and up and working.
My name is Luciano Arruda. I'm a director of globalization programs at Automation Anywhere. I've been here for about 4 years now. And under the globalization umbrella, I work with the development team in the internationalization solutions, vendor for localization and program management team. And also work closely with the regional offices on the strategic alliances and, partnerships and et cetera, logistics for them.
I'm Adam Wooten. I'm a professor in the Translation and Localization Management program at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. I teach primarily the translation technology courses, including courses on customizing machine translation and AI. And I'm also the program director for our new online Masters in Localization Project Management.
So let's go ahead and get started with talking a little bit about how you've implemented AI in your companies for localization and internationalization use cases. Olex, would you like to kick us off on this topic?
Absolutely. I'll start with what GitLab is about, and in that context, it makes sense. So GitLab makes a platform that is an AI-powered DevSecOps platform for software engineers to use, for enterprises to use for all kinds of purposes, and for managing their software development lifecycle, from planning to securing and deploying code. So it's code management in a nutshell, but a lot more to that. Throughout the platform, there are a number of AI-powered features that make the life of a software engineer way more productive. As a localization team, being at GitLab and making GitLab, localizing GitLab, using GitLab, we are customers of those capabilities and AI-powered features ourselves. So by definition, we are using AI in anything related to localization. It may be AI of our partners who offer foundational models to power those features.
Yeah, it's interesting because, Alex was saying is in the context of what the company does. So at Automation Anywhere, we work with the idea of creating AI skills and applying action to it. So this concept of an agentic model and agents is very important for us because it integrates with automation quite well. So I spend a lot of time looking at the needs of my stakeholders in the region and my internal stakeholders, product, marketing, legal, operations, facilities, everybody. And we combine certain technologies, certain data sets, with an evolving engineering prompting adaptation to serve, these clients in the best possible way. So there are a lot of examples, and I think both touch those, but quite happy with this opportunities we have now.
Yeah, that's great. It's wonderful to have two kind of industry leaders implementing AI solutions as well as using AI solutions on this talk. And of course, talking about AI becoming very present in the industry, Adam being kind of at the kind of source and core of the education for the future of localization professionals. Can you tell us a little bit about how you are approaching AI in the education space?
Yeah, of course. Well, certain things, fortunately, don't have to change. We need to continue them. It's nice that translation has been the target of AI for decades, actually. So there are certain principles that we need to continue to teach so that students can adapt when the technology does change. That's great. But of course, we're having to make changes everywhere. We're having to adapt courses, not just our more tech-focused courses, but also our more management-focused courses also have to adapt, making sure that we're integrating AI principles and teaching about how AI fits in various different uh, management scenarios. And we're having to add courses. We're excited to be adding a new course on AI for localization so that students are getting not just how AI can affect a translation directly, but how AI can affect um, even more directly other processes in a translation workflow. So we're adding a course on that first in our online Masters in Localization Project Management, and then in our residential Masters in Translation and Localization Management.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think we've all noticed that things change basically on a day-to-day basis, especially in the world of AI and talking about the release of new models. There's something new around the corner almost basically every week. And it's moving at such an incredible speed that many organizations are ramping up and trying to adopt as many AI models as possible. That brings us to the next question of how is everybody approaching the evaluation of these new models? I mean, things are coming like there are just so many new models now compared to a year ago already. What should the audience actually keep in mind when they're actually doing the same thing when they're looking at the different models and the new ones on the block? Alex, you wanna go ahead and get started?
Yeah, thanks, Jennifer. Absolutely. There is a deluge of all kinds of information, all kinds of models, LLMs, that you will have to track and evaluate. And you won't have to, though. I misspoke a bit. Localization teams, by definition, at least in my case, we don't track what's new and use what's newest. We rely on professionals to do so, or our partners who provide AI platforms, AI foundational models. By professionals, I mean any enterprise or many enterprises would have teams like MLOps, machine learning operations, and their day job would be to do just that, evaluate and benchmark models. There are platforms you can go to compare benchmarks of various LLMs. It's not the bread and butter of the localization team per se, but we are customers of that and customers specifically of models. For example, on some providers' platforms like Google, there may be very translation specialized models that perform best on translation tasks. Or there may be other providers more commercially who train their own models who perform best on translation and translation adjacent tasks. So you would go there, pick one, pick two, stick with them, evaluate them for your needs, and if it works, awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That's very interesting. I think there's a lot of information out there that everybody can take a look at nowadays. And I guess especially when you talked about translation focused LLMs or models that are specific for a task, I can imagine this impacts you quite a lot, Luciano, considering if you're doing agentic AI. Can you tell us a little bit about how you work with the model evaluation?
Yeah, so I have to say that it's a bit similar to Alexa reply, which is I have the ability to try some models, but only the models that are approved for
Mm,
based on our company governance and risk assessment and many other aspects that have to do with who do we get to work with. I have a team that is responsible for vetting the models that we can try out, and then once those are available, I can use a mix of dynamic workflows or application into specific tasks to see what's the outcome. And then everything comes down to KPIs, right? And then how are you tracking? Why is this better than the other? So you can present the information in different ways, and one model might come out as being better than the other, even though you could present it in a different way and it would have the opposite, outcome. So it really depends on what the vision of the company is, and what is the expectation of your
mhm.
stakeholders in terms of what does what does what does it mean that something is better than the other? It could be that a percentage of the task is automated, and it's done with less human in the loop than another one. And then maybe that model is worse than the other model, but I have less human in the loop, or I have more human in the loop. So it depends a lot on how you want to evaluate.
Yeah, that's a very interesting topic because I mean, when we're talking about evaluation of models versus production kind of usage, how are you determining which ones you actually want to push onto production immediately? and which ones you're kind of holding back
Yeah.
in
And
options. Yeah.
and how often do you revise this? Because, maybe every 3 months, you got to stick to one for a while to build a baseline, and then you can kind of benchmark and compare. Yeah.
And actually kind of looking back at the education space, especially with all these new models, and we heard from Olex and Luciano that they're really kind of have different teams looking at which models they're approved to use. Adam, how are you approaching it in the education space? Like,
I love the observations that Alex and Luciano were making, and we have to apply that to our situation as well. We can't possibly evaluate every single new model that's coming out. There are going to be some that are going to be more relevant than others, but then once we do narrow it down to a few that might make sense, we can follow good practices for measuring them using even a lot of the quality metrics and usability tests and things um, that have been used even for evaluating neural machine translation that we've been doing for years.
mhm,
If that's the aspect of generative AI that we're evaluating or that we're teaching our students to
mhm,
evaluate, a lot of those evaluation methods that we've been using in the past are still highly relevant
mhm,
today. Now, personally, as a professor trying to say, okay, what is important for my students to learn? I have to look at that from a different perspective, and I have to say, okay, what are some of the things that they need to learn that will have a wider impact, more that'll allow them to learn how to evaluate and implement AI at a more enterprise level versus getting distracted by neat, shiny little features that might be really cool right now, but are likely going to be replaced by something newer and shinier by the time students graduate. It's important to look at, okay, what is truly innovative? What is really going to likely have an impact? What is a kind of technology that the students really need to know and understand that they're likely to be using even when they graduate, knowing that things are changing so quickly?
mhm. Yeah, I mean that's a really big topic, right? Because also in the industry, we're basically all in some aspects students as we go through this entire journey.
Yeah,
Um,
in fact, that's something that I
and-
tell my students that is a real advantage. What a great time to be studying and learning all
yeah.
these new things at the same time that all these professionals in the industry are saying, "Oh, I
Mhm.
really need to get back and take some time to study all these new things as well." So they can be learning it at the same time that so many professionals are. So they don't necessarily feel behind. They can feel perhaps more like an AI native.
What are your thoughts about it, Luciano or Alex? Like, is there anything that you kind of constantly think about when you're mentoring people that are new within your organization? Something to think about in terms of the changing field here.
Indeed, the field is changing. Technology field is changing. Some
Hmm.
say that if you go to study computer science, study for a computer science degree, you may miss 4 or 5 years of new frameworks and technologies coming out while learning the ones that are becoming legacy.
Hmm.
Things with AI are changing way more rapidly.
Hmm.
Um, Systems thinking probably is best here. It's just keep an open mind, look for what's happening. Things will be feeling fast and also will be feeling slow. It's not too long ago, for example, in April 20 years ago, the first commit uh, of a code to the project named Git was made by Linus Torvalds. So version control using Git started 20 years ago. Is it fast and slow that 20 years passed? It's kind of both. Um, just find your own pace to keep up.
Yeah, I think, it's, coming from the business side, right? So you want to make sure that you are aligned with the demands of the market. You want to understand, there are new skills that are being created with this fast-moving technology. So we were talking about the human in the loop a while back, just to piggyback on all I saying, like things change every 3 months. We're now talking about the human decisioning as an element. So not only someone who knows how to tell whether the answer is right or wrong, and let's fix it, which becomes input for the learning model to improve, but also someone who knows how to best use the information that's available today and what workflow or what's the next best use of this data set that I just got. So, I'll give you an example. We have a lot of content that gets created in our website, and we have an AI skill that looks for it and creates blogs and newsletters and LinkedIn posts that can be distributed across regional offices, and they can use that as a basis for engaging with the market. But where do you use this information and how do you use it? It takes human decisioning, and it may be someone who is bilingual, but also someone who knows marketing really well and knows that target. So uh, that's an example of a new skill, right? Then you have in operations, you have several new professions that are coming in. I would keep an eye on those.
It kind of takes kind of a little bit localization management to a different level at this case, right? And kind of like talking about that, especially the Olex example, I guess the question is how technical do people have to be in order to work in the localization space with AI? Because there's technical, I mean, like you're developing code, you're doing computer science, and you're creating these agents. I mean, now they have a lot of no code stuff, but how technical will we think that localization managers or people that work in the localization space need to be coming up as AI is getting more democratized, but also still very technical? Maybe Adam, you want to give your insights first, working
Yeah,
directly with
well,
students?
like you said, we are seeing an increase in no code and low code solutions,
Mhm,
including graphic user interfaces for even large language model customization.
mhm,
Students don't need to be too technical to experiment with a lot of tools, for example, like GPT for All or LLM Studio or anything LLM or Olama. Or they don't need to be super technical to experiment with integration tools like Blackbird. But students do still benefit from learning at least a little Python to be using the tools that are on the leading edge that are just coming out that still don't have that graphic user interface or that no code, low code option. So yeah, there are ways that you can be productive and able to accomplish quite a bit without being too technical, but at least knowing a little bit of code will help to keep you not too far behind.
Olex, what's your perspective from the GitLab side?
In general, localization professionals should strive to be more technical. It's been observed, I've observed in the past years that localization has been more technical. I was involved with mentoring students from Monterey, some of Adam's students, and they come with diverse skills of some of them are programmers who create their own games, but they just come from that degree to continue studying localization. They will have huge success ahead of them. Technical means knowing how to code, but not only that. You may not know how to code, but you may be very comfortable speaking about technical concepts, technical design with engineering minded stakeholders, with product managers, with engineers, with UX designers. It's important to get upskilled in that way. To Adam's point about a little bit of Python, great, learn that, but have a goal in mind, I would say, some sort of a project, some sort of a problem you're trying to solve. It could be contributing to an open source project with a tiny little piece of code, but towards something that's being built for real customers. Or pick your own capstone project and do it instead of just learning how to code and learn how if statements and loops work that don't give you the satisfaction of you've created something.
I'm wondering, Luciano, do you have a different perspective considering the example you gave earlier about kind of the evolution of what somebody needs to do in localization was really kind of geared towards understanding the business cases and communication to the market. Or what do you think about being technical as a localization
No,
professional?
yeah, being technical is always very helpful, but you can be a technical leader, right? Someone who is not like down under the hood and putting things together. It's very helpful to understand how things work because when you're going to describe the capability and when you're going to talk about the business value of a solution, you need to be able to know if this is actually doable or not. So so being technical helps. I don't know that. I think learning a little Python will help. But being able to talk about processes and being able to describe how they, translate into implementation, I think that's quite important. But there's a lot that someone can do as a business leader that has to do with deploying the solutions
Mhm.
and making them better. Yeah.
Yeah, it brings us back to that. I forgot who said it earlier, the system thinking perspective. Was it Olex?
That was Olix.
Yeah, yeah. The system thinking perspective being a very important part of kind of moving forward, one of the key tools. And understanding from that perspective, not only just what you need to have done, but all the pieces kind of branching out from there. Moving on a little bit into kind of current day professionals, are there any type of AI-powered productivity hacks that you would like to share with localization professionals listening in on the call? Like special tools? I mean, we talked a little bit about what we want them to learn, but anything in specific that you'd like to share? Um, Maybe we start with Luciano this time.
I don't know. I mean, productivity hacks. So there's just so many things that can be done. I was thinking. I was in the shower, right? I was thinking about something for QA. So if I want to improve the quality of translation that I'm getting from AI and through my integration. Today, you have English as source, and you have your data, your RAG, like your TM matches, your MT, and your glossary, maybe your style guide. If I'm translating a new language, I could use another language as part of my RAG. So, in order to QA less, increase my productivity through my QA process, I could add, for example, if I translate content to Portuguese and I have a human look at it and make it right, why don't I take that Portuguese now and make it as part of my RAG for Spanish? So I think that we're using English only the source and one target, but we can use multiple target language data sets to help improve the quality of a specific language. So that's a hack, and I'm gonna try that out whenever I add a new language to my offering. I'm gonna piggyback on the existing languages and use the cognitive skills of AI to say, hey, if this sentence that I just translated to Spanish. Does it have the same meaning and is semantically and is structurally the same as the translation in Portuguese, which I know is right?
AI for productivity. I'm using it every day for all kinds of things, translation related or translation unrelated, translation adjacent, like I was saying before. It's for terminology extraction, for talking to your data. For example, you could have a history of your users, translators, asking questions about all kinds of things in your product that you're developing. And that history may go back months or years of unanswered questions or valuably answered questions. You can fetch that data and then talk to it. And it's priceless context for, in Luciana's point, for that style guide creation or for your other translators working in the future on things. So you just have a concept of agentizing that data and letting your translators talk to it. It may be not so much a productivity hack when you think about translation productivity, like I don't know, the words translated per hour or something, but that so doesn't matter. What you need to focus is probably value that you're getting out of it. So yeah, it slows you down, but you get tremendous value, and that's a hack, productivity or not.
I think that's great because we have kind of cross-functional information a little bit, like using um, different data in different areas to improve quality or, capabilities and ease of use. And then actually making kind of taking advantage of kind of historical data that you've already worked with or you already have kind of saved somewhere, maybe in Slack and kind of knowledge bases anywhere. And over to you, Adam. So what are
Yeah.
some
First, I'm
hacks.
glad that Olex mentioned using your own data for this. It's not just about using what's already in these massive LLMs, but getting it to work for your own data is very important. I would also recommend experimenting with connecting LLMs to your own translation workflow. We often see that people's first exposure to LLMs is just, copying and pasting things into an online interface to see what it might do with to see what generative AI might do with the translation, or using something that's already built in and already has a prompt predefined in some kind of translation tool. I'd recommend trying to combine both of those, use that integration and use that opportunity for customization by, yeah, connecting something directly to your own workflow, perhaps using a tool like Blackbird or another tool so that you can have a little bit more control and not have things either so separate in the off-the-shelf interface that comes with most tools, but something that really works for you.
Great. What I love about all three of the hacks is kind of this concept of not just, using something that exists, but experimentation. Looking at what you have, what you've generated in the past, what you have now, the data you have, the tools that you have, and kind of starting on an experiment to see where it brings you and how you can improve on it. So that's something I mean, I think it's a big topic now, and it's going to be a bigger topic in the future, especially as we release more models. And kind of to quickly wrap up our session, what is something that you would recommend to our viewers after this conference is over? What should they do or what should they look into?
I would say, first of all, that you need to get moving, learn anything new. I believe that to succeed in the future, we're going to need a diversity of skills. We're going to be in trouble if we only have hard skills or only have soft skills, if we only have management skills or only linguistic skills or only tech skills. Now, most of us already um, have linguistic skills or management skills, and so we really need to add on some more of those tech skills with AI. So just go learn something new, whatever that is, whether it's a free course from Hugging Face or Google's AI Essentials course, or some new tutorial for some new generative AI software that you're interested in, or perhaps even enrolling in our online masters in localization project management, which of course has courses in AI as well. But just go out and learn something new. You got to keep moving, keep adapting.
I would say the same thing, like be open to changes and be open to innovation. So you have to be curious and go out and explore. And then eventually you're going to find something that you identify yourself with because you need to like it. You personally, you have to enjoy doing something. So I think that, you want to take that first step. And the second one is maybe look at some of the areas that you're going to experience a lot of growth. So we know that conversational AI is coming. You're going to be able to talk to a document. You're going to be able to, converse with an agent. There is a lot of new growth in this area in terms of converting speech to text and also understanding dialects and this whole idea of personalization and regional hyper localization. So look at an area that you like and then look at some of the very high growth potentials within this industry and they're out there and then have fun. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Luciano. And Alex, you'd like to wrap it up?
Going back to what Adam said about soft skills versus hard skills, absolutely focus on soft skills and on things like critical thinking to be able to tell in the near future what's synthetic versus what's real, what's unoriginal versus what's original. But hard skills, do not forget about them. Some of them are harder to learn. And again, to echo Luciano, learn it by doing, pick something and build something. When you've built it, when you wrote a piece of code and it does what you wanted it to do, or it doesn't, and you spend some time debugging it, you'll get this satisfaction of knowing how things connect. New neuron will be building up in your brain and new connections, and you'll just have more and more ideas from then on.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this GRC session.